But she is not the only hypocrite on this list.
Okay, say more.
Yeah. So it goes back to the summer of 2014. So Israel was like bombing Gaza. In the space of 51 days, Israel killed 1 in every 1,000 people in Gaza and injured 5 times that many. It killed more than 2,200 people, including 551 children. So that's an average of 11 children a day in the summer of 2014. And it was during this horrific period when the world was just absolutely horrified. Of course, the Obama administration fully supported it and actually rearmed Israel in the middle of this campaign. But non-sociopathic people were absolutely horrified by this. And one of them was Stephen Salaita, a tenured professor who had just been hired by the University of Illinois in Urbana-Champaign. And he tweeted tweets expressing outrage and horror at the televised slaughter of children in a caged ghetto that we were seeing every day. Sentiments that a normal person ought to have on seeing this. And he was basically fired by the University of Illinois. This was a huge controversy, a national controversy in terms of higher education at the time and freedom of speech and academic freedom. And the University of Illinois was actually censured by the AAUP, the American Association of University Professors, which is sort of the premier body that kind of certifies that universities respect academic freedom. It was actually censored, which is a very, very rare step. It's considered very serious. There was a big campaign by students, by free speech advocates, by faculty across the country. Numerous departments within the University of Illinois voted no confidence in the chancellor and the leadership of the university. It was a huge issue that this professor, a very thoughtful professor, a great scholar who was in the Native American Studies department, was being fired for being outraged at Benjamin Netanyahu bombing children. But one person who really favored this and made the case for firing Stephen Salaita was Cary Nelson, emeritus professor of English at University of Illinois, and a past president of the very same AAUP, which had censored the University of Illinois. And he made the case vigorously, was very active in supporting and advocating for the firing of Stephen Salaita. And when the AAUP censored the University of Illinois, he attacked it and claimed that the AAUP, quote, that the rushed censure has been compromised by anti-Israel sentiments. So he's one of these propagandists that claims that any criticism of Israel is off limits. And in fact, he was, I don't know if he still is, but he was at the time of the Stephen Salaita issue, a faculty fellow of the Israel on Campus Coalition. What is the Israel on Campus Coalition? Well, in 2018, an undercover documentary, I think we talked about this on the podcast a couple of weeks back, the undercover documentary by Al Jazeera on the Israel lobby, which the electronic, it was never broadcast due to pressure on Al Jazeera, and the Electronic Intifada, our publication, obtained a leaked copy, and you can watch the Lobby USA. If you Google the Lobby USA, you can watch it online. This documentary revealed that the Israel on Campus Coalition was working, perhaps still is, but at the time this was filmed, was working with the Israeli government secretly, the Israeli Ministry of Strategic Affairs, to spy on and collect information on students and faculty across the country using sophisticated sweeping technology that is sweeping people's social media constantly and collecting their opinions, collecting their views, collecting events they're holding to, and funneling this back to the Israeli government in order to then pressure universities to, the same Israeli government is pushing universities, state governments, the federal government to pass anti-BDS laws, cracking down on the Palestine Solidarity Movement.
Right.
And so this group, spying on students and faculty in the United States in secret collusion with the Israeli government, Cary Nelson was part of that. And he was behind 100% pushing for and cheerleading the firing of Stephen Salaita, destroying his career. Stephen Salaita was unable then to get hired, a promising academic, the author of several books, a very thoughtful scholar who was really moving into the prime of his career. And Cary Nelson assisted in the total destruction of Stephen Salaita's career. And this person, this hypocrite, this racist, it makes me so angry, has the nerve to sign on this letter claiming to uphold freedom of thought and academic freedom and whatever other bullshit Cary Nelson thinks he's supporting in this letter. What a disgusting hypocrite. He makes Barry Weiss look like a person of great principle and integrity. Absolutely disgusting.
Yeah. So we really are canceling him.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I say let's do it.
Dead to me.
Dead to me. Dead to me too. But I'm looking at his website. He looks like he's in Peter, Paul, and Mary or something. Here, let me just share this. Don't be fooled by that,
like a Santa who's been on keto for a couple of months.
Yeah, exactly. That's actually a very good. Let's see. Let's just show you this guy's Punim. Not that we're making fun of that, but this is the guy. These guys. I bet is he a PEP, Progressive Except on Palestine?
Something like that. Something like that. I mean, he's really just has horrible views and is just a massive, gigantic hypocrite.
Did you know that he wrote a book called Dreams Deferred, a concise guide to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict and the movement to boycott Israel? I think that's like kind of disgusting and funny. Not funny, but unfunny. But that the title of his book is a Langston Hughes reference.
Yeah.
Dreams Deferred. Yeah.
Yeah, and that book is, all part of the campaign to smear and paint principled solidarity with Palestine as anti-Semitism and off limits and so on. And he destroyed Stephen Salaita's career, or he assisted in the destruction of Stephen Salaita's career, and so he did to the nth degree the very thing which this letter he signed is telling us we're not supposed to do.
Right.
And that's why he's such a big hypocrite. Okay,
so we got Barry Weiss and Cary Nelson.
And then I guess the other, sort of the third big one, it would be Margaret Atwood. And I mean, I enjoyed up to a point The Handmaid's Tale, the TV series, the Netflix series.
Yeah.
And, she is big again. I remember reading The Handmaid's Tale when I was in college in the 1990s. So it then kind of disappeared and came back with the Netflix series. But in 2010, she was awarded, along with Amitav Ghosh, the Dan David Prize. This is like a big Israeli prize that is basically part of Israel's international propaganda to portray it as, this center of arts and culture and literature. It's a form of whitewashing or culture washing of an apartheid regime. And she was awarded the Dan David Prize, which, by the way, comes with $1 million. Wow. I think, which isn't bad. I mean, that's not a bad payout. So she was given the Dan David Prize along with Amitav Ghosh, and I think they split the money. And so she was the focus of a campaign by Palestinians, but particularly students in Gaza, because in 2010, this was sort of when Israel was really tightening its siege on Gaza. This was the time when the Israeli Defense Ministry had calculated the sort of minimum and maximum calorie intake that it would allow for every man, woman, and child in Gaza. They actually had mathematical calculations as this is how much food we allow into Gaza, just so that people get this many calories to keep them just above starvation. Just above starvation. This is what Israel was doing to people in Gaza at that time and is still doing. But at that time, they had the actual calorie count numbers, as well as keeping people in Gaza completely sealed off from the outside world. In terms of everything, in terms of medical care, in terms of business, in terms of education in particular. And so there was a campaign and a letter by students in Gaza who wrote to Margaret Atwood asking her not to accept the Dan David Prize, not to lend her name and her international prestige to Israel, which would use her name to whitewash and cover up what it was doing to them. And they pointed out, Aya Abu Bashir, who was a student in Gaza at the time, had written, we have no fuel supply in Gaza for student transportation. There are no basic supplies or stationery for students in Gaza. Basic materials such as pens, pencils, sharpeners, erasers, and so on are not available. Any books? There are no books. Research resources or any of the like in Gaza? There are none. Israel bombed the Islamic University's labs and student residences during the winter of 2008 and 2009. And of course, Israel attacked schools all over Gaza, destroying them, as it has also consistently raided universities in the West Bank and arrested students. So the essence here is that Palestinians are systematically denied their academic freedom and their freedom of thought and their freedom to study. And we're not just talking about humanities. We're talking about Israel preventing doctors from getting medical journals so they can learn the latest techniques to save people's lives, preventing students from traveling abroad so they can learn life-saving medical techniques and so on. Every sphere of Palestinian intellectual life, Israel's military occupation impedes or crushes. So this was a call on Margaret Atwood to stand with their academic freedom, their freedom of expression, not from cancel culture. Palestinians aren't saying we need solidarity against people tweeting mean things about us. We need solidarity against the most powerful, one of the most powerful armies in the world, raiding our dormitories, filling our classrooms with tear gas, and bombing our universities. That's what we need solidarity against. And Margaret Atwood's answer was no. She wrote them a really sort of condescending, patronizing reply and dismissed them. And I think she went home with $500,000. But that's why I am really, appalled by her posing as this defender of academic freedom, because signing on to this letter costs her nothing. It actually allows her to look good, to say, look at me, I'm upholding these wonderful values. But when she was asked to actually take a stand that would have cost her something for free speech, for academic freedom, for the right of students to learn, for the right of students not to be arrested and bombed and tear gassed in their campuses, she wasn't willing to do that. But a letter in Harper's that puts her name alongside other luminaries, yeah, that's great. Easily done.